Since 1945, Weatherby's been building the finest firearms and ammunition in the world. And today, we're proud to continue that legacy from our facility in Sheridan, Wyoming. This is On Our Mark, the Weatherby podcast.
Okay. All right. Welcome to the podcast, man. How we doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Yes. Thanks for giving me the tour. I got the official Adam Weatherby tour of the Weatherby facility. And, man, again, second time doing it, and I'm just blown away. I think the progress or like all the changes you guys have made in 2 years is like probably the most impressive thing to me. It's like, man, I came here, you guys had just moved here, and it was like, yeah, it's kind of a new factory getting set up. And now I feel it's like, man, you guys have blown up. You have so much stuff going on. Really, really cool place.
Thanks. No, it's cool. It's been a lot of work, but it's rewarding.
Yeah.
And hard work is fun when it's rewarding, right?
Yeah. What is your favorite part about your job?
Man. I think it's the whole leading a team. At the end of the day, like we make a tool, right? Maybe we make a firearm, we make ammo, but it's that whole process from beginning to end, from concept all the way through testing it on a marketing hunt and having that go, and to see something successful. Like, we have a product launch. Next week we got one, and when we see a product launch, I see the video and the hunts and all those different things. But to back up and go, yeah, when we talked about that initially, all the departments from the manufacturing side, engineering, sales and marketing, doing analysis of what the market wants, all those things, and to see that all the way through. And then to see some launch film, and I get to go out and hunt and use it and test it. But that end thing, just to know all those things that have to happen along the way is just, it's a fun and exciting thing. So it's really, but it's about doing it with people. I love collaboration. I love I may have an idea that might be a spark, but it will go nowhere with just me.
Yeah.
And so I think it's like working in a team that I think is just a phenomenal team through and through here in Sheridan, and seeing that and just having the pride and knowing it might have taken 30 people touch that product or whatever, right? In order for it to get all the way through. So I don't know. That was kind of a long answer, but.
No, it's interesting. So you and I did a podcast. We were joking about it years ago, and we talked a lot about the business. We talked about you moving. It was right at that time when you were moving, and I've heard you talk about the history of it. And so when I was thinking about what to talk about on the way here, I had a bunch of ideas, but I hear you always talk kind of the generation, and I think that's awesome.
Sure,
you have a very interesting story.
Yeah.
The Weatherby brand is an interesting story.
Sure. Back
to your grandpa and all these things, but to me, when I think about it, a lot of the business questions and whatnot that come to mind is what is different? To me, I would say from the outside looking in, man, you kind of came in and you've made it your own. You've blown this thing up, and it's really cool to watch. It's cool to, from your, what you've done is the collaborations, the products you've made, the huge strides, right? And, if we go back to the podcast you did, you kind of talk about, your time away from the company. You were here, and then you kind of went and sought your passion in ministry and those things, and you had this time away. I want to know from the first time when you were here versus now, what is the major difference? How have you evolved as an entrepreneur?
I was a boy and now I'm a man. I think so much of that is with people, and the more you grow as a leader, the more you realize whether those people be your customers, whether those people be your suppliers, whether they be your employees, your co-workers, it's learning and maturing in understanding people. And the more you understand people, and I think communication, what drives people, what motivates people, what they're looking for, the more you can do that as a leader, I think the more successful you could be. Rather, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure.
So I think
it's interesting because I think a lot of, and maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but a lot of people would come into that position and be like, man, I'm not a master gunsmith. I'm not a whatever, but you have your own skill set. And I do think that all of those experiences in one's life create who you are, right? And like you become better at being a leader when you have outside experiences. When you go do different things, you learn different systems, right?
Right.
And so like it's cool to watch you come back. Did you have any like hesitation or fear about taking the company back over?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't qualified in the least bit. I just had a good last name. I could communicate, I could lead, I could cast vision, I could do all those things. And that's what I've always said since the beginning. I had to surround myself with professionals in really good areas that could execute well, that did a phenomenal job in that area. And I thought if I could do that, I think I could lead this, and I think I could do this. But there's days all the time, Brenda and I look at each other and just go, man, we don't have a clue what we're doing certain days. And you get in over your head, but that's part of the fun and the journey of it too. It's the adventure. Like even when you asked at the beginning, like, what do I like the most? The same adventure, if I'm going to go on some new hunt and explore and do whatever, this is an adventure. Like it's uncharted. I don't know. It's uncharted paths forward. What our products, what our manufacturing floor, our facilities, our branding. It's just, it's fun. It's an empty slate kind of going forward. And so I think that that's what's fun about it, is the adventure of it.
Was there a point where you feel like you found your voice, like, or you found your footing as a leader here?
Yeah, it was probably after the move. I think the move, which was 2018, 2019, it really rebranded and redefined Weatherby moving forward. That I think people saw it as like, we had to hire a bunch of new people, obviously. So just like it wasn't my dad's team, it wasn't my grandpa's team, maybe it was my team.
Yeah.
And so a bit of that was after being, probably like maybe after that grand opening, like in 2019 here, just to go like, man, we have a space, we have a town, we have a community, we got these employees, and we got this historic brand. And so I think it's probably like right after that, which was, I came back in 2014, so it's been 10 years, a little over 10 years. And so it's probably, those first 4 years was really kind of figuring things out. And then it was kind of like, okay, now we got a path charted. Wyoming was part of it. And it was just it's a physical thing that represented maybe more than just a geographical change. It was I think it signaled to maybe people in the industry or our customers that Weatherby's not dying.
Right.
We're not going away. And then when we could add on top of the move, maybe innovative new products and, our marketing, different things, I think people saw Weatherby moving into the next, era, if you would.
What's your advice on that? Like, when should people think about, and I don't want to call it just a rebrand, because it's so much bigger than a rebrand. It's like kind of a new direction. It's kind of a new, spice things up, if you will. And like, when does that make sense to inject into someone's business? And when is it a bad idea? Because I feel like there's a lot of risk there too. Like
there is, because we have so much equity in our brand. Yeah. And the last thing you want to do is walk away from who you were. Now, there's some old timers out there, that like you saw that one chassis gun with the carbon fiber barrel 307 today in the showroom, and he said, hey, what would your grandpa think of that? And there's some guys out there that just hardcore. If it's not chambered in a Weatherby cartridge, if it doesn't have the diamond, maple diamond in the walnut stock, it's not a Weatherby.
Yeah.
And but I go back to my grandpa was an innovator, and if he was born today, he'd be doing probably things that we're doing today.
Right.
It's about new and forging forward. But I think in the kind of the life cycle of a brand, you have to change and innovate and adapt and rebrand, but you can't let go of what brought you to where you are.
Yeah.
And it's that key of us constantly saying there's things that, like, we still, being this premium brand or this classy brand, like, there's things that we just won't do. Maybe in our marketing or maybe in our products, it's like, doesn't fit our brand. And so we have to I have to try to protect that, right? Yeah. In different ways at times.
Where did you get such an eye for brand? I do feel like that's one thing you've done really, really well, is balance the old and the new, the traditional and the innovation of new products and things like that, which is very rare. You and I were talking on the floor, and it's like, who's your competitor? And it's very interesting because you're like, well, at different levels, we have different competitors. And like, that's one of the things you guys have done really well is classic marketers will say, like, never compete with anyone, be uniquely you, right? And so if you say like, oh, we're just going to compete with Savage. We're just going to compete with Tika or whoever. Like, it's really hard, and it's kind of a race to the bottom, right? Whereas, like, if you kind of just are uniquely you, that's the best way because no one can compete with you. You do a really, really good job of that. Where did that come from? Where did you learn that?
I think as weird as it says, maybe it's genetic in the standpoint of that's what my grandpa did. What my grandpa did in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, everything he did was different. That classic wood Monte Carlo Weatherby stock you see now, to me, it's like, okay, well, it's been around forever.
Right.
That was radical at the time.
Right. I mean, he was a wildcatter. Like,
right.
It's like the definition.
So he embodied that. So I think it's just going back to our roots. He didn't just try to make another thing. He made the Mark V Action, 9 locking lugs. Nobody's still ever, totally unique. The Weatherby rounded shoulder, you can ask why, and I can give you a lot of ballistic, answers. To be honest, it's different. And so like a lot of things early on, the stocks, that rounded shoulder, the Mark V, all of that was nothing that anybody else was doing at the time. And so I think like our roots are a bit in that, to be a bit of a, I don't know, to step out there and to try new things. And there's certain times I think that you have to have what we call, Me Too products. Okay, there's certain things like, hey, it's what's hot, and let's do that, and it's a business, and people are wanting these things, and it's hard to have everything. Totally. Everything's been done under the sun, right? It seems like, and so that is hard. Now you have to be pushing that, and so sometimes even the new stuff we come out with, it may not be the revenue or volume driven by that particular new product, but it's what it does for the brand overall. And so like, you have to have those aspirational products. It might be out of reach for some. It might be out of the price point of some. But then, you might see it trail back to go, I can't afford that, or maybe that's not me, but I love what they're doing. Therefore, maybe I'll pick up this product that's, half the price.
Right. I would love to hear your thoughts on brand and how you grow brand and like where you position it moving forward. Because similarly, you're like, okay, we want to be premium, but we want to have this offering. We want to create, what did you say earlier? It was like great value, right? Like we want to have a great value.
Like custom features at a production price type of thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Was that a part of like how you thought about brand and where you wanted Weatherby to go? Or was that a product of what the market wanted and where the market was going?
Sure. I think it was knowing who we are. So, for entrepreneurs out there that are starting a brand, I felt like when we moved here to Wyoming, I often said I felt like it was like a 75-year-old startup in some ways because we have 11 or 12 of us out of 140 that work at this facility that came from California. So, it was a new facility, a lot of new people, and then it was new products. And so it felt like that, but the brand was a household name in the outdoor industry. Okay, in a hunting and shooting world, we didn't have to go, here's what Weatherby is.
Right.
My grandpa and dad did all that work for me. So people are trying to get their name out there. I didn't have to do that. But I also had to try to communicate that we're not just your grandpa's rifle. We're not just that woodstock gun in the back of the safe that is really cool and is treasured, but we're doing new stuff too, I think, at the same time. And so it was important to, like, in our brand, to respect who we were. And I saw it as we were growing into our brand because the brand, again, was that household name in an outdoor industry. But yet maybe certainly from a business standpoint or a competitor standpoint, like I saw we had a lot of market share we could take.
Right.
And the brand was already there. That I like to look at as a foundation, like for that launching pad, like it was there. And I'm trying to grow into that brand from a market share standpoint.
Right. And did that dictate what products came out? Because you're like, okay, here's where we want to be within market share.
Sure.
You can kind of see a void between you had, like, at that time, let's say 2014 to even 2019, custom guns where it was like, oh man, it was like you had your dad's woodstock with a Leupold 3x9, and then you had like your real custom guns, $5,000 to $10,000 guns, and there was really no one in the middle. So was that like, okay, here's where we're going because we see a void, or did that just happen, by happenstance, I guess?
Yeah, no, I think, we always look at our product mix and see, we know what we do well. People always say, why do you have this and that? Well, some of it is you try it, and if it sells, then you probably do that again. And if it doesn't, don't do that again. Just business 101. But I think, there was a big race to the bottom that happened in that time period that you just talked about, 2014, really maybe 2012 to 2017, where a lot of sub $500 bolt action guns came out, like sub $400 guns. And there was a real race to the bottom, and there's a lot of volume there. And some of them shot well. They didn't necessarily, it wasn't, again, you'd show off to your buddies, might have not had that fit and finish or feel, but like they shot. You could take them hunting, you could go kill
economical.
Stuff. They were. And we did have to make a choice. We can't compete with the big guys at the bottom anyways. We just we haven't invested enough to be able to compete at that low level and not lose money. And so we made a conscious choice at a certain point, even during that, to feature up. Our entry-level gun was a Vanguard at the time. And when we did really well around the move is we actually featured up that Vanguard and added, flutes and, Cerakote and some more dipping stuff and hand-painted stocks. And it started to feature it up and price it up. And we sold more than we did because it was an emptier spot at the time.
Right.
And, number one, and it fit our brand better. So there's some of those entry-level brands that they can't sell a gun over $2,000 or even $1,500 because somebody does not want that name on that gun. I won't say those brands, but we all know that entry-level brand. But the same is true for us. People don't expect Weatherby to be a sub $500 gun.
Right.
And so if I'm selling something and I'm cheapening and cutting the corners and selling a gun for $350, it's harder for me to sell a $3,500 titanium carbon fiber Mark V.
Yeah.
So it was strategic. It also fit our brand, and there was also a gap.
Yeah, that's kind of the perfect alignment of all those things.
Yeah.
How do you think about new products? How do you think, and maybe I'd love to hear you talk about like what opportunities you see. Maybe if you have any that you think about outside of the gun space, but like you could parlay that into gun space. We were talking about where that 307 fits into the market and things like that. People, kind of going back, you had this big wave of like $500 guns and $10,000 guns. And, the Remington 700 was like this gun you could kind of customize, everything fit, like your point of like it was the AR of the time, where you could put multiple things on it. Where was your mindset at when you kind of came to your new product lines, and how do you think about that? How do you think about new products?
I think it's also sometimes we can keep preaching to the same choir over and over again. We have some Weatherby enthusiasts out there, and we love those. And absolutely love them and need them and want them. At the same time, there's people that maybe in the past had passed our brand by for some reason or another.
Right.
Product mix, marketing, people using it or not using it, a buddy having a bad experience, whatever reason, there are certain people that when we look at growing our market share, if you would, is saying, okay, who are we missing? Why are people passing Weatherby by? Why is that not an option when they're looking at their top 3 brands to buy a firearm or ammunition or whatever it might be? And so, like with the 307, the Model 307, we realized there may be some people, although the Mark V and the Vanguard appealed to a lot of people and still do, we said maybe there's customers out there who want more aftermarket compatibility that's not as available in those other 2 actions that we'd already had. And so, and maybe, the price point, maybe whatever those things, made in USA at the price point, we knew, Vanguard doesn't say made in USA and the Mark V's more expensive. So are we losing people there? So there's a number of things to go. Who aren't we getting? We've always been hunting first, and so other companies sell to, shooters maybe first or competition. But we knew there's more and more people out there who love to tinker and play and kind of build things up and try accessories and go down to the range. And maybe we were missing them because in our marketing and our products, it was just tool for the hunt. But we're like, hey, we're making quality firearms, and maybe there's guys that hunt a little bit, but they're the primary shooter guy. And so it's really trying to broaden your market share by looking at maybe people you haven't captured before. If we keep just preaching the same message to the same choir all the time, like we're not growing. And
do you think brands struggle with moving too quickly on that? Because like you guys had the luxury of being like, man, you had set this staple, people knew your brand. I would advise entrepreneurs a lot of times, like, man, you need to have one message, one offer, one audience until you're vomiting out your ears of like, man, I've just said it so many times. Because what happens is people are like, oh, I want to make more money. We need to make more money. let's change audiences or let's go this way.
Yes.
And so like you walk this line, you guys have done a really, really good job of being like, yeah, here's who we are, but we can add slowly.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at it, we don't make semi-auto rifles and we don't do anything in pistols. By doing that, that's more of the market we're not in. In other words, we are in less than half of the firearms market categories because the amount of semi-auto rifles, pistols, revolvers, etc., lever action, all the things we're not in, lever actions are hot right now, we're in far less than half of the market, more like a third. And so has there been times where we've almost jumped in? Yeah. Has there been some development in the past that's never came out? Yeah, over the history of it. But at the same time, we're trying to be better at who we are and to be the best in the world in the categories we're already in. And if you jump out too soon and broaden that, then you're just average in everything. And so that's been a little bit of my focus too, is there's been some shiny things that you want to chase. And you go, well, right now we are not selling a pistol. So if I sold one tomorrow, that's one more than I've ever sold, right? So it's tempting to branch into these new categories. But resources are limited. I don't care the business. Well, at least any business I've been part. A privately held family business. Resources are limited. So if I start pouring it into that and everything else, it's you're robbing from something every time you're doing that.
Yes.
And so I want to make sure I can confidently say we are the best bolt-action hunting rifle ammo combo, period.
Yeah.
And like I want to say that and believe that and know that. And so there's things that I think that can distract you and you get too watered down in too many areas.
Oh, 100%. And I think, it's the shiny object syndrome where it's like, oh, we could do this, we could do this. And the more you say yes to, the more you say no, right? Like if you have to say no to something, there's always a downside or a cost, if you will.
Right. My director of engineering reminds me all the time. I was down there yesterday talking about all the new projects. Like, cool, so you want this to go forward. So which of these things do you want us to go slower on to do this? I always joke and I say D, all the above. But, it's true. Resources are limited.
Yeah. How is that driven by, you're a big hunter. Like that's your focus. That's where you're like, man, this is what I want to work on. Is that a bottleneck or is that just like a focus? Cause like those are kind of the same thing, displayed in two different ways. It's like, you're very, very interested in the hunting side. You're like, man, I want to make hunting rifles. I'm interested in hunting rifles. But then, does that limit the other side of innovation? Yeah,
I think that's where it has to be my team members. We have a diverse team that's interested and passionate about different things. The guys joke, like I love, like with shotguns, I love upland hunting. I love waterfowl hunting when everything's just right, which is rare. And so, I'm not the waterfowl guy here. Yeah. I have multiple people who are passionate waterfowlers here. Right. So when we came out with that new Sorex platform last year, our semi-auto Italian-built, shotgun, it went to 6 to 8 different states. I hunted sea ducks up in Alaska, but it was Montana, Colorado. I think it went down to Arkansas, here. All the different elements, passionate waterfowlers out there using it. I'm not going to give the same feedback on a waterfowl gun as I am on an ultra lightweight backcountry hunting rifle. Yeah. And so that's where it just comes to our team and the diversity of it. I think that's what makes it fun.
Yeah. I would love to hear from idea to market, what is the time frame for you guys to develop a product, to launch a product? I'm sure there's like some variances there. There
are variables, it's like if you call it a clean sheet design, like if take the Model 307, okay, that was, it's not just putting a new paint job on, changing a couple accessory pieces or maybe a different material here or there. So we categorize them into different, like an A, B, C, D, different types, like a total clean sheet. Like if today you said, cool, I want you to build a 1911 or I want you to build a semi-auto shotgun with a whole new, not an inertia, like a whole new thing, right? Yeah. Whatever it is, like a clean sheet design like that, that's going to be 3 years. Other things are well within a year if you can pivot faster and take existing resources to kind of do that. So the 307 was really had some different iterations along the way. And what's funny is early on, we had some designs trying to make things different, but too different. And so when we came out with it, like even some people said it's a 2-lug Remington 700 type design. And obviously, the timing was such that when Remington went under, they weren't building a lot of 700s themselves. There were a lot of custom gun builders doing it and other competitors of ours building on that platform. But, people say, why isn't it a 3-lug? Why isn't it, all these, we already have a 9-lug and a 6-lug. We already have a shorter bolt lift. So we had to find that spot kind of in the middle as we developed it, but say, let's not always reinvent something if it's not going to be better in the end. And so sometimes that's kind of hard, but we had some different iterations where it was radically different. But we also ran into some roadblocks with that, some manufacturability of it. Yeah. You might do everything. Like we were working on some stuff recently and did some drop tests, and it didn't pass drop tests.
What is the drop test? Walk me through what that looks like.
Well, so everything we build, you need to make sure A, it holds up, and B, your gun's not going off. So it's safety stuff. So, SAMI has some different things, our governing safety agency, if you would, of, rotating, dropping. It's X amount of feet on this kind of mat. There's kind of like real kind of industry standards that you do to make sure it's there. But in this particular thing, it was just kind of a mechanism that wasn't a safety feature, but something had broke. And so we had to go back to the drawing board. Who knows how much time we lost from that.
Oh, man.
But you don't know when you're drawing it up on your computer, when the engineers are in SolidWorks, you don't know how that's going to be, or ergonomically it doesn't feel right. Well, ergonomics are hard to do on a computer screen. Now, obviously, 3D printing, some modern technology things advances that where we can do it. But the problem is if you're rushed and you bring something to market before it's ready, you'll lose every time.
Yeah.
So, and we have things in our 80-year-old past where I'd say we did this too quick. And the longer I do it, the more I go, I'm so impatient. It's like, man, we have this. We've been working on it. Let's launch it. Let's let people know about it. Let's sell these things. And it's like, nope, let's wait. It just kills me. But.
Yeah, it is the hardest thing in the world to wait, to do it right the first time. But I think like the longer you go, the more you realize how hard those things are to undo. And so you're like, okay, let's be patient.
Yeah.
What's your greatest skill as an entrepreneur?
I think it's communication and people, but the two combined. So so whether it be my relationships with people in the industry, suppliers, other leaders of other companies, our customers, our employees. So it's understanding that people part. Even when I was in ministry, I was in the people business.
Right.
And so it's, some entrepreneurs maybe, it's all about the trinket they're making.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if you're not a people person, if you can't get out there and sell it, if you can't get out there and live the product and be it and have your heart beat for it, you're not going to sell. You may have the coolest gadget in the world, but you need to have that people part, that communication part. Like I say, I'm, kind of that cheesy CEO thing, your chief storyteller. But that's that's kind of, I joke all the time, that's kind of all I do, is whether that's telling a story to employees about this is a great team, let's be part of it. And, whether it be on a podcast like today, those are, that's kind of what I joke. Like all I can do is kind of tell stories and talk about cool things, and let's go somewhere and do that and motivate and inspire. I still preach church on Sundays because I'm passionate about God's word. So I teach that and I try to bring people along in that journey in their walk with God. So it's that same skill set a little bit. I'm passionate about our family business. I'm passionate about what we're doing. And so that passion comes out if I'm meeting with a key buyer of a key customer. They're like, wait, this isn't just a job for this guy. He lives and breathes this. So I think, or whether I'm hunting and using the product. So it's that face of the product, chief storyteller, kind of chief brand ambassador, I guess. We pay influencers and ambassadors, but at the end of the day, my name's the one on the side of that gun. So people can know and trust me. They hopefully can know and trust that product.
Do you think that's necessary for businesses today? And I want to preface that by saying, the hot thing right now is founder-led companies, right? People like to buy from people they know, like, and trust. And I think, if you're a company and you don't have a face to it, it's still doable. Lots of companies do it, but it's so much easier to get on board with Weatherby when I watch Adam, when I know Adam, when I feel like I can listen to podcasts and get to know him personally. And you're like, man, I want to support this brand. So back to that is do you think it's necessary in 2024 business environment, and what's your take on this whole founder-led businesses?
Yeah, I don't know, because I don't know anything else, because that's kind of who we are. I'm not a founder, but I have the same last name and third generation of it, so it's obviously the similar story there. I think if you have different, it depends. I think if there's a team leading it, somebody on that team better have that. You know what I mean? And I think if it's just a hired hand that comes and goes in a position that's filled every couple years, and that's that person, that's not going to, it's not going to bode as well, and so I think, I think to have that is definitely key. Now, one of the things is then it does rise and fall on that person. Yeah. So if that person does something stupid, says something stupid, in today's day and age, it just doesn't take much to get your name slanted. You also need to be careful that if you're building it on that person or that personality, and that person goes away or fades to the back or gets cancer, can't lead the bit, you name it, that business better be able to sustain. And that's what I love about our multi-generational business that we have, is like, that's what's cool about being third generation. My grandpa, my dad, and I are all three very different people. And yet the brand has sustained and still has a bit of that same brand image to people, but it's had three different leaders. And that's what's kind of fun about it, so.
Totally. And it adds to the whole story. Like, it adds to your story, adds to the Weatherby story. To me, that's part of what makes it interesting, and the things you do, who you become, those type of things. That's, to me, it's like, we follow these companies, and I look at Weatherby as one of those examples of, I want to see what happens in this saga or in the story or whatever. Walk me through, like, as we talk about founder-led companies, you're a big hunter, you go do these things, and that's just who you are. It's not for the brand, it's not like I'm faking it.
I don't mind it.
It's rough business to have to go hunting.
Right.
Like, what have been the challenges or the pros or the cons of being that face?
Yeah, I think obviously it's one of my favorite part of the jobs, right? I mean, it's fun to be that. I think, maybe at times I don't want to take too much credit, because so much of what we do around here, it's a whole team, and I can't do it by myself, and ask any employee and they know that. I mean, I can talk just enough out on that factory floor today to talk. I know more about each of those machines than you, right? Most of those things, but not more than the guys down there running them, and so I think it's kind of, making sure that you're leading it, but there's a team of people that are really about that, right? And it's also that I do have to realize, like, at certain times, because I do get involved in the weeds on a lot of things, like, what should only Adam Weatherby be doing today that only Adam Weatherby can be doing? Yeah. And so how can I promote other people up under me or do those things? And what does it mean for me? And at the end of the day, like, being on this podcast with you, the questions you're asking me, you could have a lot of people here answer a lot of great questions. The questions you're asking me here today, I'm the only one who can answer these questions. Right. And so I'm going to be on this podcast with you, because you know what I mean? Yeah. And so it's finding that out, and but you can't do it all either. Yeah. And so the invitations are boundless to do things and go places and meet with people or speak at events, and so at times I can burn myself out on it. And so it is understanding it's the long haul. Yeah. And I think that's maybe one of the biggest challenges for me, because I want to jump at all the opportunities, but you can only jump at so many. Yeah. And so as that founder type of mentality, I think it's deciding what I should do and not do. That's the hardest challenge.
I think that's probably one of the greatest skills an entrepreneur can have, is like, when things get going, you'll have more opportunity than time. It's what you say no to, right? And to your point, like, a lot of those things are building relationships. It's not just like the promotional. It's like you go out and you do these cool things. I always call it, one of my buddies coined the phrase Montana golf. And it's like, going on hunts, and like, you get to meet these people, you get to hang out with them. And I love that term. But you also get all the residual effects of those relationships, right? Like you get to go do those things. One thing I've really admired, and one thing I want to talk about, is your relationship with Brenda and your wife. You go on these hunts. And so, like, I was just watching the sheep film, you guys' sheep hunts from last year. And, really, it's really cool, but it's really interesting. Like, you guys have this great relationship. You still go on hunts together. Like, has it always been that way? I mean, like, I don't want to, I'm sure it's not all roses, but like, getting to go on all these hunts with your wife. Your wife is hardcore wants to do like the hardest sheep hunt in the
Sure,
country,
right,
like those
right.
type of things. Like, has it always been that way, or how did that develop?
No, we've always led together because she's our vice president of people and culture here, and she has a master's in organizational leadership, and she's great at details and administration and people, and she oversees our facilities here. Like, we've partnered in things like when we moved here, like we had to build this huge facility, but I was still running a gun business.
Yeah.
So she was in charge of the weekly meetings about the facility. She didn't know how to build a big facility, but she's like, so we've always kind of divided and just led together, which has been fun. We've always adventured together and done a lot of things in the outdoors, but she didn't come to hunting till about 2015, 2016, even though she'd always been just, like traditionally it was, and in generations past, kind of the dude's thing. And we were actually launching our women's specific rifle named after my grandma, Camilla, at the time. And I said, we're going to ask a lot of kind of expert women, if you would, avid shooters and hunters in that field, what they want in it. But why don't you come in as the new person on this? And like, she came in and was a part of kind of that team in developing that rifle as a newbie. And then, like, within a year, she'd like been to Africa, Montana on a bear hunt, Idaho elk hunt, and she was hooked. And so, but before that, we'd backpack together and done triathlons together and traveled together. So we'd always done adventures together, but not the hunting part. And she always does. She's just all in on whatever she does, and so she got all in on that. And now it's a really fun thing. I mean, I'll do the hunts with just the guys and do my own, things, and she's there not on all of them. But it's a unique thing too, and we've realized that not only am I out there being the face of the company and using our products in a hunting environment, and so there's some, positive things about that. But as a couple to go do that is very unique.
Yeah.
And so we've realized like that film that you just watched that launched last week, it's like the feedback we get on it, there's something people really enjoy and motivate. And we've written some articles on couples hunting together, and it's kind of just this side thing that we enjoy. We share an office together here. So we've also been together since we were like 14. I say I don't recommend this for everybody. There's a lot of guys that'll just, they want to go hunt and have their wives. For us, the shared experience is really neat.
Yeah.
So
how do you get to that point in a relationship? I mean, you must have a lot of relationship skills. I'm sure it's a ton of work, but like, what advice do you have to getting to that point in a relationship where you can work together, you can, do adventures together, you can go these big hunts together, you do all the things together. How do you get there?
Man. First of all, you got to marry a good girl. I did that, so I got lucky there. I was blessed. But I think it's understanding each other and knowing I got to step into her world and she's got to step into mine. And it's, that's what marriage is, right? It's about figuring each other out. And so it's about understanding her, learning how to communicate. So, you get that guy that's up there and yelling at the guy, shoot now, shoot, why don't you, and just, she's never going to go with you again. Yeah. For her, it's about the experience. She would rather shoot a smaller bull or a smaller buck and have a better experience and make a cleaner shot and not be rushed and all those things. Well, at the end of the day, most guys, if there's a bull that's 30 inches bigger, they kind of had they'd rather have that bigger bull. She wouldn't, and probably most women wouldn't. So it's an understanding what's important, where her limits are, where mine are, things to bring her on, not bring her on. So it's been 30 years of learning that, I guess, So it's just it's understanding that. And so that goes in with life. It's us not running into each other even at business or at home, and realizing our roles and that understanding each other. And like I always say, like, sometimes I know what she needs more than she does, and sometimes she knows what I need more than I do. And it's really understanding that about each other and having that dependence upon each other.
Yeah.
So
where do you see, I'd be curious from the relationship side, but maybe also the business or the personal side of like, where do you see yourself in 10 years and what is successful?
Yeah, that's a good question. One I ask a lot, even from the business standpoint, you're always looking 3 to 5 years out, trying to have roadmaps. And, I was just in the shop this morning with our director of manufacturing, trying to figure out with our growth, where's this going to go? But we got to know, well, if we do this, we might have to move this machine. And so it's, as much as you can tell in business where you're going to be or in life is good. But golly, you look at the past 5 years and the uncertainty and the economic stuff. You look at inflation. You look at what COVID did and the spike, and then the thing after spike, and the market. It's like we say, our crystal ball's broken every day, and we try our darndest to do it. So then you got to go back to what is constant. What are the things we know about our business, about who we are, and all those things. And it's just, you keep doing the best at that, and the economy is going to do what it's going to do. Technology, out there, more in a macro state, is things are going to do what they're going to do. We be who we are, and then we adapt to those things, right?
Yeah.
I think that are out there. That was real broad, I guess.
Yeah.
I think we've done a lot of that rebranding, maybe even unintentional, the last several years. I think people understand and get that now. And now it's really just continuing to grow and push in the spaces that we've already really kind of been in. And, we got a lot of great ideas and, from a product standpoint, certainly, and even business growth and all that. I'm not one just to put things on cruise control. It just gets boring. And so, if you're not growing, you're dying. And so, in order to even stay flat, you got to be pushing forward. And there is, a lot of that does have to be a new product and new technology and innovations, and to kind of do those things. I know for me personally as a leader, a lot of what's happened here over the past 5 years has been developing and growing this team that we have. And so it is coming back to a few questions ago of me realizing the things that I should do and shouldn't do. So for me as a leader, I'm trusting my team more and more to do more and more things. And there's meetings that I'm in, and Luke, my COO, he'll just go, Adam, you don't need to be in this meeting.
That's good.
And I'm like, you're totally right. And so I'm being in less meetings than maybe I would have before. Because when we moved here, and it was me and Brenda and 15 other people, we had to know we felt like a first generation entrepreneur, not a third. We had to know everything. We didn't know who was coming. We felt like we needed to know everything. But the curse of that now is I'm having to pull my hands, tentacles, if you would, out of different things, and to go so I'm redefining what my role is actually as the CEO or the leader of this company, and realizing that I have great people in place to do things that I should probably be doing less of. I'm not good at that, to be honest.
I don't think any entrepreneur is. I think we're so used to being involved in everything that the hardest thing to do is to take yourself back out of it and trust other people. Correct. And you get burned on that, right? You trust someone and then it falls apart. And you're like, see, this is why I do everything. And it reiterates the cycle. But as an entrepreneur, as a human, you have to grow and change, right? And I think, that statement you made, that if you're not growing, you're dying is both true in business, but also in your personal life, right? Mm-hmm. You have to be evolving. Your relationships have to be evolving, with you and your wife, whoever, your kids, that relationship is always changing. And, for me, it's just when you think it's working with the kids, something changes and that evolves. And so it's sure. Once you understand that, it's almost easier. Tomorrow will not be the same. Sure. And I have to okay, what is tomorrow? And then we'll figure it out from there, and then how to grow into that, right?
Yep. And I think it's just that, more you grow in business or do things, you just realize that success isn't merely in that business or that brand or this name or all those things too. And so whether it be family or for me, ministry or other things, it's it's also just maintaining that balance is hard for those driven entrepreneurs too. Yeah. And it's something I struggle with all the time. And, like I said, I'm preaching this Sunday at church, but I have to stay in that and do that and stay committed to these things because, this business means a lot to me. But there's more than just guns. There's more than just this brand. So it's being well-rounded as a person, as a father, as a husband, as a friend. And so it's realizing and growing in those things. I'm probably at that age and place in my career where that career and this brand can just be everything. And it takes humility sometimes to just back up and say, it's okay. We had, Brenda and I were just talking to share sides. We were just in Alaska. Got back last week. And we were fishing, and we were with this guy, and deep sea fishing, they're telling you how to do everything all the time because, I'm not an expert in fishing by any means, but I love fishing and bringing home fish. And you fish and you get something up and you think it's a big one to get off, and, you get mad at yourself just like you do anything else. And he just kept having this line, it's just a fish. And he would do, I'm like, no, it's a big halibut or it's a big salmon. It's just a fish. And Brenda and I just this past week, we find that in business and you just get so intense. And she'll just look at me, she's like, Adam, it's just a fish.
That's good advice.
And it's you might lose somebody on the factory floor that was doing a great job because they decided to go pursue a different career or move, or it's just a fish. They're going to move on. They're going to find their place. Or it's a product that, the launch gets delayed, and it's just a fish.
Yeah.
And it's recognizing that too, and just not taking it all so serious all the time too. I think for us that are driven, maybe like we are, you got to do that,
Totally. And it's always this balance too, because to get where you are, you have to be very driven. You have to have that no quit. I'm going to outwork everyone. You have to be smarter. You have to, all these things you have to be, but then to turn that off is unnatural in a certain way. And so you have to find this balance. I do think as you get older, it's easier to be like, oh, it's just a fish.
Right.
22, 25-year-old me didn't have that.
No. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even in the hunting space, man, you can get so wrapped up in it. And it's does it really matter?
Isn't it funny, when you're in the middle of a hunt, you're doing something, and you're judging animals, you're doing this, it's just everything. And a year later, you're like, whatever.
Yeah.
I shot a lot of bull elk, and it's, I was on a hunt recently with Remy, and Remy Warren, and we were, doing a hunt and everything, and we didn't get the bulls we wanted at the end of the day. And it's I got meat in my freezer. It was a good hunt. We enjoyed a good time. I've shot other bigger bulls. This is the smallest bull I've shot since high school. At the end of the day, I'm okay with it. And then people, and then I try to live through the same. Now everybody's going to see Adam Weatherby with this dinky bull he shot and whatever. Give me a break. You know what I mean? So I shot a dinky bull because it was day 5 and it was the only bull I saw in 5 days of hunting, and so it's you take that so serious and all those things, have some fun, I don't know. And it's hard to do for people like me, but.
What advice would you give your 20-year-old self? And you can change the date, but
sure.
The perspective is still
20,
the same.
25, 30, whatever. So for me now, 30 is the 20, I guess. But man, I don't know. I don't know because there's a lot of things going through my mind, so I'm trying to kind of funnel it down. I've always, the one thing I have done is always, I've always done what I'm passionate about. And so the advice, one of them would be do that, stick with that path. And then I think anybody would, looking back, 20, 30 years to look back and, you can't fast forward maturity. Some things you just have to make mistakes.
Right.
But is to be okay with those mistakes and to just learn from them. And, I think one of the biggest things, you don't want to live a life of regrets. I think a lot of people live with that. I don't have a lot of fears, but one of my fears, I don't want to get to the end of my life and have regrets. That's one of the things that, I don't know if it haunts me, but I don't want to, you get one shot.
Yeah.
And so it's wake up every day and just say today's my last, if this is my last year, I had the biggest influences on my life was a kid who was in my youth group and he got leukemia 4 times, elementary school, junior high, high school. And right after he graduated, he was interning for a youth group, got leukemia at 18 for the 4th time. And he had bone marrow transplants. And the doctor said, you got 4 months. He said he had 3 months to live. And, that impact, he taught me how to die. He taught me what was most important. He was 18 and he realized, I'm not going to get married. I'm not going to have kids. I'm not going to have a career. I'm not going to have all these things. But the way he lived what ended up being 5 months, not 3, was so powerful. And an 18-year-old kid taught me how to live and taught me how to die, because it's just a fish.
Yeah.
And we care about all these other things. And he went around and used the time to speak and to share, his walk with the Lord and faith and loving other people and the things that mattered the most to him. And that's what he lived the last part of his life. And sometimes we just live like we're immortal. Yeah. And we just think it's going to be here forever. And I can look at this brand and say, oh, brand's there. Well, in the scheme of human history, we're a blip on the radar.
Yeah.
And to realize that. And that's when people matter, all those different things. And I think at the end of the day, that's why I've been coming back to people so much is that's what matters most. Yeah. It's not even the excitement of a new product or the money we make in a particular, all those things, but it's really about people along the way and how we've treated them and how we've been with them. And there's times in business, I was a pastor for a long time, and CEO, and there's times where those things conflict in my mind.
Oh, really?
You know, because there's this part of like just loving and caring people, but at the same time, when you're growing a business, like you fire people, you have hard conversations. Like I have enemies in this industry too. I'm sure people I've ticked off, people that I see them and I'm like, but I knew it was best for Weatherby, so I had to do this, or you know what I mean? Or
no, totally.
And so you have those hard conversations, or hard conversations with a supplier, or whatever those things are, and like so at times like it's hard because you want to be so driven for success, but you want to do it and be right to people along the way.
Totally.
So sorry, that might have been too much for you.
No, not at all. One of my favorite quotes, and I think it's like tagged in my Instagram, is most men die at 27. We just bury them at 72. And I try, like when you think about no regrets, living your life in that way, it's like that's the thing I try to remember always is like, yeah, there's so many things you want to accomplish. There's so many on the to-do list. There's like all this, but things to be successful, air quotes there. But it's like, you also have to live your life. You have to, be in the moment. You have to be present. You have to, make sure you're not just falling into the rat race.
Yeah. And I think for me at least as a man, I don't know, or a business leader, like a lot of it comes down to my own pride and humility.
Right.
What do people think about me? What do people think about this business? What do people, you know what I mean? Even hunting, everything, reading comments on social media or whatever. And it's like, how do you, and there's a lot of negative, but there's 10 times many positive, but you need that to outweigh. And it's like, how do you just go, I got to lead this business. I'm going to make the choices I'm going to make, and the comments are going to be what they're going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to ask, like, how do you handle that? Like, a part of you, the ministry side of you has got to be like, man, I want to just everyone to like me. You want to do right by everyone. And the CEO side of you knows that, they kind of have to make hard decisions. You got to have hard conversations.
Sure.
How do you balance the ego?
Right.
How do you, put the comments away? How do you not worry about it?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, it really is. It's a struggle. I'm human, and it's a struggle. And you want to be. I'm good enough. I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. And we all deal with that and want that. And I think because my last name is the brand, there's so much identity in that. So even I take things against our products personally, and so you have to you have to separate yourself from it, and also I guess I care the most about what people think about me that I respect. And probably 90% of the negative comments that you read on a YouTube video or a Facebook, I don't know those people, and they don't know me.
Right.
Those ones you have to go, they don't know me.
Yeah.
If I have somebody that really knows me and they got a problem with something I'm doing, I better listen to that.
Right.
Because they really know me.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of it has to come back. That humility, I think, in general, in leadership is so important. And it's important for our employees, all of us, that we haven't arrived, that we have so much to learn. And, that was the humbling part about coming back from ministry. You just go, okay, I'm leading this gun company. I'm overseeing engineers and people. I don't know what the heck they're talking about.
Yeah.
The first couple of years, I'm like, just, trying to keep my head above water, trying to figure it out. And so, yeah, I think that humility is absolutely key.
Okay, last question maybe.
You ask good, hard questions.
If you could put anything on a billboard, obviously it can't be Weatherby. If you could put anything on a billboard, what would it be?
Where?
I guess that matters. Yeah. The intent of the question is, what is the message that you would want people to understand?
Man. Yeah, it wouldn't be about Weatherby because, that's just business. It'd be about the things we've been talking about the last 10 minutes, like you said on the, just to, live every day like it's your last, to, and everybody's got to find that thing that's most important, to them and what makes the world a better place. For me, we talked a lot about it, but I'm just real open with my faith, in God. Yeah. And so to me, I believe in a life beyond this one, and I believe in eternity. So for me, I try to have that eternal mindset, right? That it's beyond this one. I know not everybody listening to podcasts may agree with that, and that's fine. But for me,
That's a great way to live life, though.
For me, it's like it's not just this life, but it's the next as well. And so,
Right.
For me, who Jesus Christ is for me, and the fact that I'm not perfect and I'm not humble all the time, I do make mistakes. For me to know that somebody died so I don't have to be perfect and loves and forgives me and loves me just the way I am, I'd want to love other people that same way,
Yeah.
So something in those regards, that's truly what's most important to Adam Weatherby. If I want people to know that more than the guns, more than the hunting, more than everything else, it's about that. And then those people that I do life with, understanding that and loving and forgiving each other in that same way, having that in my marriage, having that in my relationships with employees, to have that love and that grace and forgiveness and those different things at the core of all of that is important. And I'm the first one to say, I lose sight of that all the time. But that's the beauty of why I have my faith, is that I have a God who loves and forgives me no matter what. And I want to have that kind for other people. So,
awesome. New products. I want to give you a chance to, I know there's some stuff that's coming. I don't know if always stuff coming.
Yes.
We might have to delay when we put it out, but what's exciting?
When are you putting this out?
Whenever you want me to. Last time you made me wait like 3 months.
Oh, gosh. Oh, really? Yeah. We've launched, I think Tyler just told me, like 9 new products this year.
That's crazy.
Sometimes I lose sight of it, and I'm always like, we haven't launched enough.
You're 14 ahead.
Right. So we've been doing a lot, but just next week, actually. Should I talk about stuff that's coming out next week?
Yeah,
because you're not going to launch it the next week.
Probably not.
Okay, probably not. So we're and even if it does, that's fine. We're launching off of our Mark V Backcountry. We're having a new guide series, Mark V Backcountry Guide.
Oh, okay.
Carbon fiber barrel, lightweight stuff. Kind of shortened our barrels up, which is kind of cool. Some new paint jobs, and we've also done some cool things for accessories and inletted for the Spartan gunsmith adapters in there. For the carbon fiber bipods and tripods that I use a lot to go in there. So we have this really cool kind of the Backcountry Guide series. It's going to be called, both in titanium and steel and stuff. So that's a little launch we got here at the end of the month, end of August.
Nice.
That'll be coming out. So that's not a clean sheet, years in the making design like a 307 or the Sorex was or something. But still, it's constantly just improving and tweaking and figuring out new things.
If you could send the audience to one place, what would it be?
You're saying
like
website?
Website.
Online.
A video. What's your favorite piece of content?
I don't know, but just this last weekend we launched that new sheep film thing, and it's fun and adventuring, and it really encapsulates a lot of what we're talking about, because we had a new product, we had the brand new 307 Alpine CT, we had this new Mark V. No, we didn't have a Backcountry Guide, but anyways, we had. You know what? I just goofed that up with a New Zealand thing that hasn't come out. Shoot. Sorry. But anyways, we were using a new product at the time. It has Brenda and I hunting together.
Totally.
It's got the grinding and out in the field. It's us testing new product in the field. So there's a lot of cool things. It's called In Pursuit, and it's a tale of 2 sheep hunts. And we just saw it this last weekend. But it's kind of fun, and it shows just a bit of what we do and figuring that out.
I want to see more of that. I want to see more of
Do you?
Yeah. You and Brenda
what did
together.
you like about it? Because I want to know. So then as we're going into things, even this fall for hunting films.
Don't take this personally. Your sheep hunt was fine, but like watching, the half with Brenda's hunt, it's kind of cool. Seeing you guys together is super cool.
Yeah.
The relationship side of it. Huh. I think there was like this other story going on, but it's like, to me, I was like, oh man, this is really cool. It's inspiring to me to see that relationship and see that, we've all seen a million sheep hunts, and we've seen people, kill sheep and whatnot, which is great. It's fine. But that side of it was kind of
That's cool. So we're doing just a little teaser then for people. This year I drew a Colorado mule deer tag, put in some points and drew a mule deer tag in Colorado. And Brenda got an elk tag, a pretty good elk tag in Colorado. My mule deer is 2nd season and her elk is 3rd season.
Nice.
So she's going to accompany me on my mule deer hunt in Colorado, and I'm going to accompany her on her elk hunt. I think we're going to do, don't hold me to it, marketing team's in charge of all this, but I think we're going to do a combined film of our Colorado hunts this year in a similar way, doing some DIY stuff down there. So it'll be fun.
Just document you guys' adventures. Like, I just like this document over create, which is, I just want to see the journey, and like
cool.
that was kind of the cool part for me.
That's fun. Yeah, that's cool. So head to our YouTube and check out In Pursuit. It's our newest film. whatever, our Instagram, this, that. But everybody always knows where to find that.
Yeah.
But it's just because it's new and fresh, and
Totally.
and it shows my wife being tougher than me. It's the only thing I didn't like. So we had this film premiere here.
That's the part I liked.
And what I didn't like is I'm like, wait, Adam just goes and shoots a bunch of big stuff on some outfitted hunt, makes it easy. And then Brenda's just grinding it out. And I'm like, no. But
It was kind of funny. It was like, yours is like, oh yeah, we just go and do it. And then
Right.
hers is like, this, super hard hunt. It's definitely.
So we are going back out again for that. She's got another tag up there for that. And she's just determined. So
That's so cool.
I'm heading back out again this year for her. So we're not going to have a film crew on this one. So the beauty is she might actually tag a ram because we're not going to have a film crew. And, if you take a film crew, you don't get in. And if you do, you don't. And,
Well, I mean, I've done that hunt a number of times.
Yeah.
So I'm like secretly not rooting for. I'm rooting for her and against her because I was like, oh, if she kills one the first day, I'm gonna be so mad.
Yeah, and that's always a trick too when you're doing things, trying to not let people know where you're at and try to, we don't, you try to like respect it, but people love to journey along with us, and so we try to just do that. And I think that's what's unique too. We have our own in-house like marketing team here, and people, Kobe comes along and hangs out, and so sure, we're not like we're in the business of like making guns, right?
Yeah.
We make guns and ammo, and we just try to like dialogue and like journal about what we do along the way, and I think people are aligning with that and they enjoy it. So it's fun. Yeah.
Well, congrats on everything. It's super great story to watch, to be a part of.
Cool.
And everything. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
And
Thanks, Cody.
there's a bunch of stuff we didn't cover, but there's a save room for the next one.
Appreciate it and the friendship. I think it's been 6 or 7 years since the last one.
Wow,
So
that's been a while.
well, you said it was when we were moving.
Yeah, I
I've
guess
been
it was.
here over 6 years ago. June, I moved here, so it's been over 6 years.
Man, time flies.
So I'll see you again in 6 years.
Yeah.
I'll have even more gray, but I appreciate it. Thanks. That's what I love about you is just it's not just the same questions. It's about digging deep and the business part of it. And I think
That's
people really align with it. And it's fun. And I know you got a lot of things you're always cooking up. You're not one to sit around and let grass grow under your feet too. So it's fun to watch what you're doing. So it's fun.
Well, thanks, Adam.
Cool.